We'll bring day 2 of our April 2026 Game Fish and Parks Commission meeting back to order. We're going to jump right into our items. So yesterday we ended with 15. That was the Pete Lean and Son Shooting Complex update. We are now at item 16, license sales reports, and we've got Director Kirschman on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners and Secretary Roebling. Tom Kirschman, Director, Wildlife Division. Provide a brief report and summary to you on license sales, our monthly license sales report to you. So item number 10 in your book, and we'll start the first page there with the combination licenses. One thing that I think is important just to give an overview from the last couple of months. In particular, we saw the last couple of months fishing license sales were maybe just a little bit behind what we've probably anticipated or in comparison to last year. And you will see when we talk about those in this report, things have certainly bounced back, a lot to do with nice weather, people getting out. And we saw some maybe a little bit behind just because of our truncated ice fishing season that we've talked about the last few months. But things have really picked up as we had the discussion yesterday about nice weather and people getting out fishing. So things look really good overall. But first page there, combination licenses. Again, these sales remain strong. You can see the regular combination licenses just a little bit behind in comparison date through the end of March for 26 compared to 25. Senior combinations up a little bit. Certainly folks are getting out and enjoying the nice weather. Again, combination licenses provide for both fishing and small game hunting, but all in all, those numbers look good as we move into this real spring, early summer conditions. The next page on the back side of that first page is the habitat stamp report. Again, this kind of is a great indicator of the level of participation, the number of folks that are out there. Again, very similar to the end of March as last year. We're going to see some additional bumps in the habitat stamp over the next couple months as we go through some other application periods. For example, the combined deer drawing, which will be coming up very soon. In the next month or so, a little bit longer than that, and some other draws. So as we get into some of those limited draws here in the springtime, we see some of those jumps, and then we're also going to see it as more and more people are getting out fishing and purchasing those fishing licenses. Next page is small game. Some really good numbers to see here in particular, both at the resident and non-resident level of the small game licenses themselves. Small game under the residents are doing very well, ahead a little bit of last year, very similar. The non-residents were ahead for 26 compared to 25. A lot of this can be attributed again to the nice weather that we saw at the end of the pheasant season there. The month of January was maybe some of the best pheasant hunting that we had all season long, and again, as we shared last commission meeting, we even had folks saying, gosh, could we extend that even more with the nice weather that we're having and the success that they were having. So, but when you look at small game, both resident and non-resident are doing very well. And again, just remember for these licenses, we don't see a lot of changes this time of the year because there's not a lot of small game hunting activity going on like we will see again in the fall. But great indicator of what we're seeing right now for license sales for small game. On back, the next page on back of the small game is the fishing licenses, and this is where we really made up some ground over the last month or so. Again, very indicative to the nice weather that we have, and really pleased to see that. We know folks are getting out there. The weather's been nice on certain days. Resources are plentiful. Folks are having some good success out there. We know it can be a little hit or miss this early in the year, but boy, folks are sure taking advantage of the opportunities that exist out there, both from the places to fish and the weather that we've seen here. So those fishing license sales right now have really picked up, and they look strong, and we're excited as we move into the early part of summer, late spring here, and we'll continue to watch that. And then the last page there, big game license sales. Again, these are just some of the information items too. You can see the mountain lion licenses a little bit behind from last year, but again, it does show still one of the very popular hunting season for some big game hunters. This is somewhat of a unique group of hunters as well. Certainly some of these folks are adamant, big time, really into mountain lion hunting. They thoroughly enjoy the opportunity that exists. It's been a little bit tougher season just with the nicer weather again. Less snow makes the hunting conditions a little bit more challenging at times. But folks are still finding some success out there and really enjoy the mountain lion hunting season and the opportunity provided. And then you can see some of the spring turkey statistics there again. Still a highly desired season as well for people to get out and spring turkey hunting. Everybody gets a little cabin fever, and it's always nice to have that spring turkey season kick off the spring and get out there and enjoy some of those opportunities, but those look really good as well. So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I guess my summary would be, compared to the last 2 months, we're up a little bit. Strong sales are showing right now. Things look really positive. Weather's really been really nice, and as we get into this true spring and early summer, only anticipate that activity is gonna pick up, and lots of good opportunities out there. So I will certainly try to answer any questions you may have.
Very good, thank you for that update. Any questions from the commission and or comments? All right, very good, seeing none. I know we have some resolutions that we need to take up, so we'll do that now.
Commissioners, Gail, thank you for the assistance. Gail is passing out resolution 26-02. And this resolution is from the discussion yesterday from the petition that was brought forward by Mr. Wes Chamella out of the Oklahoma area, Chamberlain area, about walleye fishing. And this resolution we drafted and put together with about 4 justifications based on the conversation that we had yesterday, based on the information presented by Chris Long-Henry, our area fish supervisor, and your discussion, and the denial of the petition. So basically, Commissioners, if you go to the bottom of the front page is the first sets of the whereas, and talks about, believe that the current walleye harvest limit and structure for Lake Francis Case is appropriate. Talks about the differential daily limits on selected portions of water bodies complicate angler compliance and also complicates regulations. We talked about that factor. Angler use and walleye harvest during January through March is typically a lower percentage compared to the overall use and harvest on Lake Francis Case for the rest of the year. And what was trying to be desired to move them later in the year can be very challenging and unlikely to do because of the post-spawn movements that the fish do have, as well as the prey availability in certain segments of the reservoir at different times of the year that Chris talked about and shared some of that information with you. So if those 4 reasons are in line with what was discussed yesterday for the denial, we would ask that you would pass resolution 26-02.
Thank you, Director Kirschman. Any questions from the commission on this resolution? Seeing none, we do need a movement. Again, approving the resolution agrees to the denial that was made yesterday.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by, was that Commissioner Whitmire? Thank you, Commissioner. Seconded by Commissioner Teal. Questions? Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the resolution is adopted. Very good, yep. And then at this time, I know we were gonna continue, not quite sure how you wanna title this one.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, what we wanted to do was have a little bit more discussion this morning as we put in a delay mode for overnight, as we pulled together a few numbers in respect to the conversation we had about license numbers. In your book, we have the administrative action for the commission, where we have some changes associated with the East River deer season that was based on conversations we've had over the last year, EHD, the low numbers in that southeast part of the state. And we went in there and addressed several of those units by further reduction of licenses as a way to help try to bolster some of those deer numbers down there. Again, in the grand scheme of our overall process, for the veteran commissioners and then for you new commissioners, for the deer hunting seasons, elk seasons, all of our big game seasons, what we do is go on a 2-year rotation where we actually bring recommendations for licenses based on what our current objectives are for units, the information that we have, both biological and harvest information, collectively pull all that together. This particular year, we're actually on the quote-unquote off year of bringing the full package of recommendation of license changes. That's why you didn't see in your booklet adjustments for East River deer, West River deer, Black Hills deer, all of the different deer seasons. East River deer, that was because of the real concerns that we've been talking about and expressed for down there in the southeast part of the state. Now, while we do a 2-year rotation, that does not mean or preclude the commission making adjustments to license allocations for various units on the off season. Because it is not administrative rule change, it is action taken by you, the commission. So you have the authority, you have the prerogative to make some on that off year adjustments if you so choose and desire. So that's where we're at today and in the process this year. Hold on 1 second. So you have in your book those changes for the East River deer, and then Commissioner Teal and Commissioner Spring also brought up questions about a couple of other units, in particular in western South Dakota, the West River deer season. And the one in particular that was brought up was for Meade County. And so we went back and visited with staff a little bit. Please keep in mind that staff have conversation about all of these units in the off years also. They're looking at the harvest information, they're looking at our current objectives, they look at the weather. Did we have a tough winter, open winter? All those different factors come into play. And when they reviewed that early on, based on the information that was in front of them, from harvest information to conversations with our local staff, conversations with other landowners out there, we did not initially bring any type of suggested changes in this off year for any West River deer season units. Hence why there was nothing in the book for it. Appreciate commissioners bringing forward comments that you're hearing, you're seeing, folks that you're talking to, because that is also helpful. And the other big factor that was brought up, I believe, in these conversations was we had EHD in western South Dakota again last year also. Again, it's oftentimes very localized. It's not widespread. And even in a given unit, it can be very localized. It's not evenly distributed in terms of the impact within one hunting unit as well. And we see that all the time with EHD. And so it's oftentimes very challenging, on what actions to take or not take, or do we wait one more year and see how it plays out. And then the other factor with EHD is the reports we obtain from the public. We encourage the public to reach out to us, our local staff, whether it's a local conservation officer, wildlife damage specialist, our office, we don't care. Just reach out to us and tell us if you are finding deceased deer on your properties that you believe was from EHD. Especially if you see something that's still alive, we will go out, take the animal, do testing to confirm that's what it is. Now the challenge with that is, in some instances, we get a lot of information, a lot of reports. In other locations, in other instances, we don't hear much at all, if anything. And so when we don't hear those comments from the public, landowners, whoever it might be, and you don't have that information, it's really hard to go in and make further adjustments. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons that you folks did not see adjustments in the West River deer season. We had a couple of reports, but the numbers that we had just did not lend itself to going in and making further adjustments. It was a different scenario than what we were hearing from southeast South Dakota in particular. Now that being said, we continue to have discussions about some low deer numbers in pockets and locations. You have taken multiple actions over the years, the last couple of years in particular, to really reduce, in many cases, minimize to almost eliminate doe harvest opportunities with the hope of continuing to help bolster those numbers out there. So that's just a quick background in the general process that we go through in that. So what we did is we had some discussions with our local staff, and of the 3 units that were brought up for some further discussion, what we have in front of you that I'll share with you in just a moment is at least one change right now within Meade County. That was one that we've had some conversations about. I know Commissioner Teal, you had also mentioned Butte County from Perkins County. When we talked about those 2 counties, it was a little bit different also. Those are counties that we have seen some pretty strong deer numbers in general. I'm not gonna say in pockets that it's not. Even to the point where our staff were considering, do we need to make slight adjustments in our overall population objective approach to those individual units. Butte County is an interesting one also because for a long time, what we have heard is about strong deer numbers, deer depredation, what are you gonna do about all the deer numbers? And so even our local staff were like, wow, we're having some folks saying we have low deer numbers is almost a strange thing for them to hear right now. So we did make and have one suggested potential change, and that would be in Meade County right now. And that particular change would be eliminating, we have an 18 license type, which is an any whitetail plus a whitetail antlerless deal, so it's a 2-tag license. And remove that particular license type and switch that over to just an 11, which is an any whitetail. So basically you're completely eliminating that second tag, which is a doe tag or an antlerless tag. So that was one of the adjustments that we would recommend for Meade County at 49A right now. Now again, commissioners, if you have that strong desire, you want to have some additional conversation on a couple of those other units or some of these license types, we can certainly do that. I will pass this out so you can see what that looks like. Thank you. And then I guess we can take it from there and have some additional discussion conversations. Again, what we would offer up to you, this may not even be final also. What we would recommend is that we have our discussion today. We can make some final adjustments based on our discussion and then have this at your May commission meeting where you would take your final action then on this administrative action of finalizing the license numbers and types. That at May you would finalize that and then we would insert that into the application licensing system for the deer draw. So I would ask you to turn to, I guess it'd be the back part of the second page where it'll start with the 2026 West River deer. And you'll see one line in there that has some yellow highlighted. So the yellow is what is being adjusted here. And if you go down the column of the 18 license type or that AW plus ATLW, that's that any whitetail plus an antlerless whitetail. There were 250 allocated for that particular unit, 49A. The yellow, you'll see a strike through, so that's removing those 250. But then under column NEW 11 type, there's 250 there, so that would be moving them over there. So again, we would be removing that second antlerless tag from that license type, and it would just be one license or one tag with that license. Again, that would reduce some level of harvest. That action alone would reduce our estimate somewhere around that number of about 45 does. There wasn't a lot of harvest of does because a lot of those folks you're using their licenses for the harvest of a buck. Even when we look at in 49A last year in 2025 of those 500 any deer tags, we had a harvest of, I believe it's 16 or 17 does off of those 500 tags. So that the harvest of does was very, very minimal. And we don't see that as a real trigger in terms of a biological impact and the opportunity for that. But so those are just a few stats. That's some of the items that we discussed with staff here quickly over the last 24 hours. Again, I think that's at least a starting point, and I'll open it up back to you commissioners if there's any other discussion or any other folks would like to chime in and offer anything up. But again, you know, we can continue the conversations over the next month, understanding that, because you're not gonna take the final action today. We will bring it forward at the May meeting for you to make final decisions on those license allocations.
Very good, thank you, Director Kirschman. Questions and conversation from the commission? Commissioner Spring.
On 49B, you have 700 tags that don't list what they are here, and I see, are those any deer or what?
Yeah, Commissioner Spring, so 49B, there are 600 any deer or the 01 tag type, so it's a single tag, any deer, and then there are 100 antlerless, or excuse me, any whitetail. So that's the total of 700.
I'd like to see that as,
Some of those are the individual license. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's just giving the overall.
there's about 2/3 of that unit, the deer population is very bad, and then there's about 1/3 of it that there's a lot of whitetail deer. We've had 3 years of EHD, and it's, the numbers are really bad in a lot of areas, and in some areas that aren't bad, but, I'd hate to see those shot anywhere in the unit myself.
Yeah, again, just for your information, Commissioner Spring, so in 2025, on the any deer tags for 49B, we had a harvest of 6 whitetail does. So the number was very minimal, adult does, 6 were harvested in that off of the 01 or the any deer tag type. So the vast majority of our hunters in that unit were harvesting buck deer, not does with that particular license type. And on the, bear with me, on the, for 49B, the 11 type, which is the any whitetail, the 100 of those, there were 8 adult does harvested on those particular licenses. So again, the number was pretty minimal, pretty small in respect to the total number of licenses that were issued and the total harvest. But just for your information, that's what we ascertained from our harvest reporting.
Commissioner Spring,
Excuse me.
Commissioner Spring, yeah.
What percentage of the hunters sent in a report card? I mean, was it a high percentage of reporting or a low percentage?
Commissioner Spring, I do not have that in front of me. My information is looking at the numbers in my success rate of the tag. So I don't know. I would say typically, I'm gonna guess it's somewhere about 50%, maybe 60%, a little bit higher than that for return rates of harvest surveys.
Thank you.
Additional discussion from the commission. Commissioner Teal.
Tom, real quick on that same discussion we're having now on Meade County, I think you said there was 6 or 8 does shot on those any whitetail licenses. How many bucks were shot with those same licenses?
Yeah,
Type 11s.
type 11s for 49B, we had 47.
Okay. I was just checking because I was curious if only like 20 were shot, maybe it was the low doe harvest was more indicative of the population, but looks like there was pretty decent success.
Yeah, it was just a little over, right around that 50% success rate on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, could you give me the same numbers possibly for 53C, Southern American?
Yep. So 53C, for the 01 license type, so the any deer, we had 9 whitetail adult does harvested out of that 500 licenses, so 9 does out of that 500 licenses of the 01 license type. Does that make sense, the any deer?
Yep.
Okay?
And do you happen to have the same numbers for that type 18 license?
Yes, so 53C, 18 license type, we had 141 whitetail bucks, adults harvested, and 63 adult does, whitetail does.
Yeah, like you said, I think a lot of it is localized. I know the majority of the concern I heard in Perkins was from the south part of the southern unit. And as you get north, I think there's a lot more does, but I think the problem in that unit is most of the public land is in the south part of the unit. So the hunters are concentrating in the south side of those deer are not coming back. It's hard to micromanage it when the success rates are high like that, but that part of the unit seems to be hurt, and I think it's very similar to what's happening in Meade County and Chuck's area as well. But thank you for those numbers, that's very helpful.
And it was also interesting, Commissioner Teal, when we talked to local staff out there, some of the comments they made in particular about Perkins County this last year, with the relatively decent or good precipitation they had, there was good habitat conditions, crops, everything was in pretty good shape for the most part across the county. And an observation by our local staff, they believe that deer were more spread out and scattered versus more congregated in some places that they've seen before. And they just attributed that, some of it, to the overall habitat conditions up there this last year. Now, is that gonna hold true again next year and the year after? Hard to tell, right? But it was just some observations they made as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Secretary Rogan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom, can you please explain to the commission some of the growth rates we're seeing? Is the deer herd growing? Is it stable? Where is that growth? What direction is it headed, if you will, please? Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Secretary Roblin. I might have Andrew chime in here as well and share some, but in general, what we're hearing from staff based on, again, some of the biological information we obtain our field counts in the fall of recruitment, doe-fawn ratios, and in particular, up there in that area where you're talking, Commissioner Teal and Perkins, what we've seen the last couple of years is some continued growth of overall deer numbers. Again, our biggest challenge is nothing's ever evenly distributed across a hunting unit or multiple hunting units. We do have variation, as Commissioner Spring has described as well in his part of western South Dakota. But we are seeing deer numbers, we're seeing mule deer numbers in particular rebounding and growing. Many locations we're seeing the same thing for whitetail. We still have some pockets where it's low, but Andrew, are you on, or Trenton? If you are and listening, I guess I would ask one of you to maybe chime in and give the commissioners a little more specific or details on overall deer growth and what we're seeing in western South Dakota.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Go ahead.
All right, Andrew Norton, Wildlife Program Administrator, and Andy Lindblom had presented on the projected changes last year. Statewide whitetail growth rate was 9%. Statewide mule deer growth rate was 5%. As Director Kirschman mentioned, there's a lot of local variation. That being a statewide growth rate would vary a lot, being in northwestern South Dakota. Hemorrhagic disease is certainly impacted that herd, not recently, so hopefully that did not affect it as much, but we definitely would expect a decent growth rate, probably close to the average there in Perkins County, Butte County, Meade County. And then mule deer much lower, probably half the growth rate, and that's going to vary as well with a variety of factors. Fortunately, not hemorrhagic disease with mule deer, but I'd say on average 9% with whitetail deer and 5% with mule deer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Andrew, can you explain to the commission some of the data analysis unit fawn to doe ratios, please? Do you have any of that information in front of you? What is the recruitment rate up in the northwest versus southwest versus the central part of the state? How much does that vary? I know we spend a lot of effort in quantifying those data, so if you could explain some of that, that'd be great.
Through the chair, Secretary Roebling, what I have in front of me is the statewide trends and the variation. Generally, we see the fawn to doe ratios lower for mule deer than we see for whitetail deer. A little bit more delayed reproduction and lower fawns per doe pregnant when they give birth. Also a little bit lower survival for those mule deer fawns, so slightly lower, but on average, whitetails range 70 to 90 fawns per 100 does. If you have a really good year, you have a 1-to-1 ratio, so every adult doe would be bringing one whitetail fawn in. We haven't seen that in a while. Mule deer a little bit lower. That ranges, I would say, just above 50 to 70, so maybe 10 fawns per doe lower with the mule deer. In 2024, that statewide rate was, let me see if I can get this right, just over 70 for mule deers and right at 80 for whitetail deer. How that ranges spatially in western South Dakota, probably a little bit lower recruitment rates. If I remember from some of the studies, I would believe the Black Hills has a little bit lower on mule deer recruitment rates, and I don't unfortunately have in front of me the differences between southwest and northwestern South Dakota, so I don't want to speculate too much how those vary, but there's definitely variations. We have 11 data analysis units across the state, and most certainly have those recruitment rate estimates at that scale, one of which is Harding County, Perkins County, and I believe Corson might be included in that one. I can't remember exactly, but they're an aggregate of like 3 counties that we measure those recruitment rates at. And I can certainly provide that to the commission if they're interested in seeing those exactly.
Any other questions, conversation, discussion from the commission? Commissioner Spring.
Tom, I was wondering, you said that the rate last year was like 50 to 60% the license filled. Is that normal, or in previous years when West River had a lot more deer, was it a higher rate of filling or not?
Commissioner Spring, in average, in general, on years to years, it is not unusual to see that 50 to 55% success rate on those types of licenses out there. You know, even in years when we have stronger numbers, more deer, the likelihood is we're gonna have few more licenses available as well. And so that success rate may not change a whole lot. So that range, I would say, is fairly consistent. Now it varies from year to year, right? Weather could be a variable, availability of deer, just the localness of it, but it's not unusual to see that 50 to 55% success rate on that type of buck tag, and I think that's what you're referencing.
I was visiting with some people that were hunting walk-in areas, public land, and last year, it was the last weekend, and this group of people said that they'd never seen a deer the whole season, and that's why I asked that question. Sure.
Yeah, and in a couple of these units in particular that we're having this discussion about, where we do have some of those antlerless licenses, Perkins County in particular, they are designated for private land only also. So it's that approach then is putting the ability for the landowner to make that decision or discretion of additional doe harvest in that particular area if they see it as needed or desired based on what they're seeing. And if not, then the private landowner is going to control, if I may, that harvest level. And which is no different than your ranch, right, Commissioner Spring? You're gonna make that determination who has the ability and access to hunt on that property.
Any, Commissioner Teal.
Tom, I was just looking at in Perkins, I see there's 100 of those 19 P tags. And maybe some to consider would be maybe we could possibly move those doe tags from the double tag. So right now there's 250 double, antlerless tags, if I'm not mistaken, that are good for, public land as well, any whitetail plus antlerless. And maybe if it was possible to move those onto a private land only, so those areas where they are having success in the north part of the county, they would still be able to shoot their does, but the public land that people seem to be complaining about might have a chance to rebound a little better. Just kind of move some of that harvest off, so give them a chance, but wouldn't actually be decreasing overall licenses, it would just be reallocating them.
Yeah, we currently have, as you can see, 100 licenses, excuse me, that are double tag antlerless deer, that are 09P, and then there's the 100 that are 2 antlerless whitetail that are a 19P, which would be the private land also. I think you see that, right?
Yep.
You're just looking at that 250, that's
Yeah.
the
So
the
if,
18 type, and put it more on private land, you're saying?
yeah, so if there was 250 any whitetail tags, another 250 antlerless whitetail double private tags, just reallocating them, so basically there is no, would be no more, double any whitetail tag. It would limit that whitetail doe harvest to private land where it's needed.
Yeah, moving that, you'd certainly increase the density on that private land if it would be allowable, but flip side, it would be taking some of that density off some of that public land as well.
Correct, yep.
We can certainly go back, if okay with you, and have some further discussions with staff on that, and think about the big picture of objectives and where we're at and how that would work and play out.
Maybe it
So-
wouldn't even have to be all of them, but a portion of them. Cause I do think that if there was, there's probably not a heat map, obviously, but I could about guarantee that the majority of that doe harvest is in the north part of the county. And there's very little public land in the north part of the county, so I think it'd be a good move, but we can have further discussion.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, that it's good recommendations, suggestions, it gives us the ability to go back and have further conversations with staff.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'd like to, Secretary, go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was just gonna say, I will be happy to continue this conversation in our mid-months. We cover some of these other questions in greater detail, provide a little more data in regards to some of the fawn to doe ratios. We'll also have a presentation in May that covers the East River allocations, the history of that, the 10-year history of where we've been, where we're at now. We'll do the same for West River, and then we'll continue these conversations in regards to some further reductions in certain units. And we'll have that conversation here in a couple of weeks. So thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Tom, for cracking open this discussion.
And I would just ask that, appreciate Commissioner Teal and Spring bringing forward the questions, the concerns, and we'll reach back out to you to further have some of those conversations over the next week or two before your mid-months, that we can have some more definitive information for you as well.
So Director Kirschman, for the public that are gonna wanna take a look at this and provide any input, anything, we'll finalize on this in May.
Correct.
Any information that will be available online to the public will come when?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we continue to work through this. Probably what we'll do is, at least where we are today, knowing some of these adjustments, we'll redo this, we'll post it just like on our website so people can see it if they wanna provide comment. We'll continue to work on it, and then we'll bring some final adjustments at the May meeting for you and your consideration to finalize for the license allocations for. It would be finalizing both the East River changes that you have in front of you right now and these West River ones that you're discussing as well.
Very good. With that, if we don't have any other questions, thank you for bringing these changes last night and this continued discussion. And with that, we will move to item 19, Missouri River Outlook.
I got it.
Morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair, Secretary Roebling. My name is Pat Busher. I'm the Regional Park Supervisor for the Missouri River Corridor Parks. Today, as I do annually, I'm here to provide you a brief outlook at the Missouri River forecast and how that affects our recreational opportunities within the state. Chris? So. Okay.
I got it.
So if you want to move ahead. So the first slide that I'm going to show you here is our most recent, just updated yesterday, is our mountain snowpack. As many of you have heard, our mountain snowpack is below normal out west. In parts of the Rocky Mountains, it's extremely dry. But as of yesterday, we saw a little bit improvement, and I would just make a note that our peak of our Rocky Mountain snowpack usually happens in mid-April. So, with the grace of God, we still have an opportunity to gain on this. We are at 67% above Fort Peck Reservoir right now, and 65% of normal above Garrison. This has a definite impact on our reservoirs, particularly within South Dakota, Lake Oahe being the one that has the largest impact. And then Nick, if you want to go to the next slide, please. What the next slide is I'm showing you a three-week forecast for the Missouri River reservoirs, with the Oahe being on the far left there, Fort Randall, which is still climbing, which it does every spring, to our static pool elevation or normal pool, and then Gavin's Point. So the biggest fluctuations we see here in South Dakota are on Lake Oahe, which is our major storage reservoir. This year, as noted in the forecast, which I would say is likely to change, I would say until we get to that May forecast, based on National Weather Service predictions, precipitations that we see in the area, local forecasts for the central part of South Dakota is at or above. We have equal chances of being wetter than normal or less than normal, which kind of frustrating, but that's typically where we sit. Other than the far southwest, they're predicting less than normal precipitation, which is no surprise, and some in the far southeast. But right now, this forecast shows Lake Oahe dropping through the end of the month, getting down to about elevation 1,600, which at that elevation, we're about 7.5 feet below normal pool or the flood control pool. You want to go to the next slide, Nick? This is just another forecast. This is for the annual forecast. This was just updated the 1st of April here. The model that we typically use is the one that they average out the most, is the basic. That's the solid blue line that runs through the middle. Currently, right now, we're at elevation 1601.1, and we plan to drop in that elevation about another foot here till the end of the month, based on what we have for moisture in the system right now. It would be nice if we trended towards that upper basic, but right now with what we know, that's unrealistic. If we have continued drought within the system, the lower basic could become a possibility. Nick, if you want to move ahead for me, please. This is just another tabular that gives you elevations by month rather than a line. So as you can see, we're looking at the end of July on Lake Oahe, about 1599. It's dropping about 2 feet from now, which isn't a huge decrease in reservoir. So we're going to be holding pretty consistent throughout the summer, pretty similar to what we did last summer. We had a little more water last summer. We stayed pretty consistent throughout the summer. But with that forecast, we anticipate that we should have pretty decent access throughout the boating season. Next slide, Nick. So with that, Lake Oahe, we anticipate that we'll have 16 to 17 of our 20 recreation areas, boating access areas on Lake Oahe functional throughout this forecast. Now, with that being said, I will say, depending on where we go with our forecast, we have continued drought conditions within South Dakota. Those numbers could decline slightly. We would still anticipate that our major boat ramps, we would still have continued access, as we have got low water boat ramps that could appear at those times and put those into service. But with that basic forecast, we anticipate that there's gonna be good access on Lake Oahe. And as you all know, the fishing on Lake Oahe is gonna be outstanding this summer. I'm anxious to try it out myself. Next slide, Nick. So with that, I'll go into, as far as the public facing map, as far as when people have questions about public access, we have this great map that's available on our website, the aquatic access map. And if you go to the next slide, Nick, it'll show you a picture of our boat ramps on Lake Oahe that we currently manage. As you can see, those blue symbols are open and available ramps currently on Lake Oahe. This was just updated last week when I was doing this forecast. Some of the ramps we will see closures on, but anticipated. For instance, Foster Bay. Foster Bay is an area I don't foresee that ramp being in service for the life of the reservoir. Really, it's gonna be super high water for that to be a useful, functioning ramp now. Next slide, Nick. So this is the upper and middle portion on Lake Oahe. As you can see, we're gonna have good service throughout the reservoir, throughout the boating season. So we don't anticipate any concerns, which is typical throughout the season. The department does lease 2 telehandlers that the park staff use and travel throughout the Oahe system, cleaning ramps as the need presents. Next slide, Nick. So, and then I want to close with the status of our marinas, either state operated or privately operated on the reservoir system. So when we talk about our marina systems, when we're up at Bridge City Marina, up at the Mulbridge area, or the state-run operated marina at Spring Creek, those on Lake Oahe, those are gonna see the largest impact. And with the forecast that we're seeing with consistent, stable water levels, we anticipate a full level of service throughout the summer. Now, the other marina systems, as we go on the reservoir, those reservoirs stay pretty stable throughout the boating system. Francis Case always sees a drawdown every fall. That'll have some impact, but it's usually after the boating season, after the main marina season. So the biggest impact that we see with our marina operations are on Lake Oahe, and right now we're forecasting good conditions throughout the summer. And with that, I would gladly take any questions.
Very good. Any questions? Secretary Roebling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question, Pat, in regards to Spring Creek. What was that critical number, or that canal channel of the actual marina gets closed off and non-passable? Is it 1590?
So,
when does that marina become non-functional is my question.
through the chair, Secretary Roebling, what we're looking at is that low 1590 elevation corridor. So we start the operational status of that marina within Spring Creek without a boating corridor was determined to be 1585 through our Edgewater consultants. But for the basis of keeping that boat ramp and a passable corridor through there, it's in that 1590 category.
Pat, you mentioned this, there's, what, 4 boat ramps that'll be closed out of the 20? Is that what you?
We're talking about boat ramps, Madam Chair, on the reservoir. We have boat ramps at Okobojo, Foster Bay, which typically both those boat ramp locations are high water locations. For instance, Okobojo only enters the water at elevation 1607. So but we have good access in that area at Cow and Spring Creek, so very little impact there. And then Foster Bay, as I mentioned, We also have boat ramps, I wanna say Dodge Straw could be one that's taken out of service here soon. And then Shaney Creek, which is also on the west side of the reservoir, that could be problematic for us this summer as well.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we appreciate the update, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move to item 20, Adventure 250 program.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Secretary Roebling. Oh, now you can hear me. My name is Heather Berg. I'm the Parks GIS Specialist, and joining me today is Rachel Comas, who is the Parks Statewide Volunteer Coordinator. And today we're going to give you a brief update on the 2026 park theme, which is called Adventure 250, Make Your History in South Dakota State Parks. So we are about a month away from kickoff, and we're really excited. Everything's starting to come together. We will give you a pretty cool update on the prizes. You do have brochures in front of you. Those are highlighting many of the adventures that are going to be going on across the state. And this program does tie directly into America's 250th birthday celebration, but we are very focused on how we can get South Dakotans to engage in our parks and really get connections in those meaningful ways. The campaign does start May 11th, and it will run until September 6th. And at its core, it's about enhancing those visitor experiences in our parks. This gives people a simple way to try something new, visit a different park, or spend a little more time in the parks they're already visiting. These activities are going to be flexible and accessible, so anyone can do them at their own pace. The goal is to encourage repeat visits, get people outdoors, and help make those connections to our great state parks. So how do visitors take part in these adventures? And that is where that adventure park comes in. Each region has its own set of unique adventures, and that's really where this program stands out. These adventures are designed to highlight things visitors may not even know are there, like the summer concert series at Shade Hill, or tracking down the elusive Sasquatch at Lake Hiddenwood, or following in the footsteps of Lewis and Clark at Spirit Mountain. The goal again is to help people discover something new, even in parks they've already visited, and give them a reason to explore more. In addition to the regional adventures, we've also included experiences that can happen at nearly any state park. These are designed to be flexible and accessible, whether someone is visiting for a few hours or staying for several days. Some are longtime favorites like fishing and bird watching, while others encourage visitors to try something new, like disc golf or stargazing. We are also promoting midweek camping by assigning the maximum point value of 50 points for those activities. The goal again is to show that no matter which park someone visits, there's always an opportunity to discover something new. Participation is simple. Visitors complete adventures and submit them to earn points. They can visit the same park multiple times or explore different parks throughout the summer. So for example, if someone is enjoying the trails at Newton Hills every weekend, they can submit each week and be eligible for those prizes. Each submission does require a selfie at the park sign to verify the visit, and the theme website is live and will include an interactive map that shows not only where the adventures can occur, but also our best pick of where you should take those selfies with the sign. Entries are submitted weekly, and then the drawing takes place the following week. This is designed to be easy to participate, but we're also going to be getting very valuable information on how people are exploring our parks and engaging with them. We'll be using this information to better adjust future programming and determine the overall success of the program.
Adventure 250 keeps participants excited and coming back week after week. It's kind of the theme you keep hearing this year. It's multiple ways to win. We're rewarding both participation and dedication. And we want to keep those folks engaged. Weekly drawings across our 4 regions create consistent opportunities for visitors to stay engaged, while also driving traffic to the parks throughout the entire program. At the same time, those that have fully committed to reach 250 points are recognized in a bigger way. They become a part of our Adventure 250 Club and will receive a swag prize bundle, and they also earn entry to win our grand prizes. This structure, again, not only incentivizes participation, but celebrates the experience our visitors are creating along the way. And we're excited to partner with Independent Insurance Agents of South Dakota, whose support of $20,000 helped make this opportunity possible. Their commitment aligns with our mission and vision to serve and connect people and families to the outdoors while enhancing the quality of life for current and future generations. The weekly prizes shown here add an extra layer of excitement and anticipation throughout the program. Each week highlights different gear and experiences that enhance time spent in the outdoors. And these are all things that our visitors can immediately use in our parks. This ongoing promotion keeps Adventure 250 top of mind all season long, while also showcasing the many ways people can enjoy the state parks. It encourages participants to return, try those new activities, and continue to build memories. To showcase these prizes, our users will be presented the prizes on site at the parks with park staff, our sponsor agent, and we'll take photos of those winners with those items. These prize presentations will be posted each week to Facebook with digital picture frames that also showcase our sponsor's logo as well as ours. The grand prizes are designed to be the ultimate reward for those who fully embrace the Adventure 250 experience. Participants who reach those 250 points aren't just entered to win. They've truly immersed themselves in everything our parks have to offer. So these prize packages will reflect some of the best outdoor recreation in South Dakota. From camping to relaxing weekends in our parks, and of course fishing too, each item is intentionally selected to extend the experience beyond the program, giving winners more opportunities to get outside and continue exploring. Most importantly, this is about recognizing and celebrating our commitment to our visitors to make discoveries in new places and trying new activities while building those lasting memories. In the end, the grand prizes help carry the spirit of Adventure 250 forward, encouraging participants to continue coming back to our parks to make their own history. This program connects a national historic milestone to our parks by driving visitation, highlighting the unique stories found at each location, and creating meaningful personal experiences along the way. For 250 years, people have explored the landscapes that became our parks. Now it's our visitors' turn to do the same. Every hike, campfire, discovery, and family outing is much more than just a visit. It becomes a lasting memory and a piece of their own history. Thank you for the opportunity to share about Adventure 250.
Very good. Any questions? I do have one. Thank you for the QR code. So they take their photo, their selfie in front of the sign. Where do they submit it to? Will it go through the QR code? Or?
Yes, so the QR code will take you, through the chair, sorry. The QR code will take you to the dedicated theme website, and within that website I'll have the rules, but it also has the link to the survey. We're using Survey 123 again this year. We've done it the last 7 years. Works out great. They will be able to enter their information as well as check off which adventures they participated in. And then we'll get, again, some valuable feedback to help get some metrics on the success of the program.
Very good. Very creative. A lot of work went into this. Good job. Any other questions or comments? Well done. Thank you. Good work. Yes, every commissioner should be going to their area.
Yes, I agree, I was gonna say that.
It's our homework.
So there is a part to highlight on that for eligibility purposes, of course, we have if you're an agent member or a GFP member. So if you guys wanted to have an internal commissioner challenge and see which could reach the most points, we can gladly accommodate that. So you guys would list yourself as a Team GFP member, and we could track your points and let you know who's in the lead each month.
It is on.
Glad I could help. Thank you.
The communications team will come up with a really good prize.
Maybe the commission could challenge the staff.
Oh, all right, let's keep moving on.
Thank you.
No, good job, everyone.
Let's start earlier though,
Yeah.
because we're in Custer at our next meeting and
Oh.
it doesn't start till May 11th.
Oh, yes, well, yeah, post dated. All right, good job. With that, I see Director Van Meteren is with us for item 21, an update from the managers conference, investing in our employees.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Rowland. First, want to just thank Rachel and Heather. They have been the tip of the spear on this little project that they put together, and it's going to be one of our main promotional pieces for the summer, and they've just done an excellent job of pulling this together and working with our independent insurers group to line up those prizes. A lot of logistical stuff behind the scenes, but staff are really on board. We'll get into that in a little bit here, but we really look forward to this and think it will generate a lot of excitement and enthusiasm and interest this summer with our camping. So yeah, Jeff Van Meteren, Parks Director for Game Fish and Parks. If you turn in your books to item number 21, you'll see the agenda for our Park Managers Conference that we just held this week, actually. So this is very fresh. Our Managers Conference is one kind of embraces one of our 4 strategic plan priorities, which is operational excellence. Every spring, typically in April, we host our Park Managers Conference in one of our 4 regions of the state. This was our 5th conference, so we started this 5 years ago. This really came out of a desire from field staff to have a practical conference that addressed real issues our staff navigate in their daily park operations. So it's really a grassroots effort. We all go to conferences and we hear about subjects that may or may not apply to us. This is all geared around what they want to know, what their concerns are about, maybe where we want to get some feedback from them. We typically have 75 to 80 plus staff attend, and that includes all of our field management staff and our central office team as well. It's typically a 3-day event, half day, full day, and a half day. So the middle day is typically a day when we get out on buses and tour some of our parks. A lot of our staff never get to. That sounds kind of strange, but if you work in Hot Springs, you may never have gotten to Fort Sisseton State Park. So really important to share that. So what are the goals of this program or this conference? I would say there's really 6. One is to bring our team together before the main event. We call the summer the main event. We're about a month away from that, so we want to get them together. We want to create that enthusiasm, motivation, excitement for the summer season. Number 2, to discuss those key items and topics that staff have an interest in and get their feedback on some of the relevant topics that are out there. So you'll see on the agenda, the first day we had a session on our theme rollout that Heather and Rachel did, followed by a session that Hillary Morey did on just outdoor recreation engagement, bringing in some statistics, really cool stuff. And then our law enforcement section chief, Sam Skelhaus, came with a law enforcement message, which was great. Met with the Parks and Wildlife Foundation director, executive director, and hosted a little social we had that night, but also explained what was going on in that world. And then the last day, if you turn to the Thursday, this is a really cool day. We do these round tables, and we started this 3 or 4 years ago, and these are subjects that we have a real interest in as the operations team, the leadership team of the department, and this is our opportunity to get feedback from our crew. So we break those 80 people into 5 different groups, and we move them around the circle, doing 20-minute rotations, and we talk about things like mentoring, barriers to your job, weekday camping ideas, seasonal training, camper recruitment, new user groups. Just get some great feedback from that. It's always interesting to hear their comments. Back to my goals. Another goal with this program, or the conference, is to network and provide the support to anyone feeling unprepared or uncomfortable going to that season. When you're surrounded by your peers, you're not alone in a sense. So we do that intentionally. Then of course, number 4, we want to expose our staff to different park operations around the state. This year they got to see Fort Sisseton, they got to see Lake Pickerel. And I heard a number of comments like, wow, I've never seen this before. This is cool. This is really neat, and it's quite honestly the only fort we really run in the state, so that's fun to see. Our staff get the opportunity to kind of show off their parks, and they take a lot of pride in that. They really do. Those parks look immaculate. They're in great shape. Number 5. This is kind of intentional on our part, but it's also an opportunity to interest maybe our younger managers in seeing those parks and maybe a future job opportunity. Where if they've never been there before, they may not have that same interest. So it's kind of a recruitment tool for us as well. And then number 6 is just networking. I learned a long time ago the value of networking. You can never underestimate that. It builds team, creates an informal support network, and instills just park knowledge in general. And that's really important when you sit around and have a drink with a person, and they get to know you, you get to know them. You're on a bus tour sitting beside them in a seat. Gives them an opportunity to ask maybe the director questions. Maybe it's an experienced regional supervisor. Maybe it's another park manager. So, a third of our team has worked less than 5 years. 2/3 of our team has worked less than 10 years. That's pretty incredible when you think about that. So bringing them together and doing this it's one of our favorite conferences of the year. And we do this all internally. So just wanted to share that with the group and showcase one of our operational excellence goals. So thank you. Questions?
Yeah, any questions for Director Van Meter? Jeff, I do have one, and I know it's pretty fresh, but have you had a chance to think about some key takeaways after listening to the different conversations?
I had to leave early because I had to come to a commission meeting. So I did not get there for the final review, but we do tally those comments up every year. And our goal is not just to put them in a file and put them on a shelf, but to do something with those comments. So we will do that. And I can send those to you folks if you'd like to see those. And those will primarily be geared around these 5 roundtable discussion items. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, we are going to move on to the next item on our agenda, 22, ARPA summary.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner, Secretary Roebling. My name is Adam Kalasa. I'm the Planning and Development Administrator for the Parks Division. And I'm here today to give an update on the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act. Just as a little bit of a history and background, this is my 3rd time presenting on ARPA, but back in March of 2021, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act that dedicated millions upon millions of dollars across the nation for water, drinking water, and sewer infrastructure projects. And the state of South Dakota received approximately $975 million in that allocation from the federal government. And fortunately, because of our team's efforts with our 5-year plan, we had a plug-and-play list of projects that we were contemplating each year in our capital development budget, and we were able to submit those and secure $17 million of dedicated funding just for this South Dakota State Parks and Recreation And that was out of the 60 million that, the state dedicated to state, operations, state agencies. And so the remaining dollars of that money went to, and as many of you travel around the state, you may have seen, rural water providers doing some significant upgrades to water systems across the state. And that's where the significant amount of money went to, was both cities and local rural water communities. However, that $60 million really helped state agencies be able to update some infrastructure as well. And we were fortunate enough to have $17 million dedicated in the 2022 legislative session. As we started that process, we were also able to identify early on that there was some additional need, and we were also able to secure another $400,000 for a large project out at Custer State Park in the 2024 legislative session. So just kind of a brief update on kind of where we're at today. When this started 5 years ago, we started with a list of significantly more than 42 projects. It was determined that with the amount of money and with the updated estimates that we have, that we had to kind of prioritize which projects that we were going to do. And so we took a hard look at that, and we ended up down with 42 projects that we concentrated on to prioritize. And those funds were required to get under contract by the end of last calendar year, and then we've got a couple more years to get them complete. But happily to report that we are approximately 93% complete with all of those projects. Very much success, and want to give a shout out to the team, GF&P efforts here for getting to that place. Only have really a handful of touch-up things, some a little bit more significant work at 3 projects left at Fort Siston, Hartford Beach, and Farm Island that I'll touch on a little bit later. And happy to report that, out of the $17.4 million, we have spent almost all of that money through the most recent report that I received from the Office of State Engineering. And so really excited to report that, hey, we're really just finalizing these things, and these have been something that's going to be long lasting within our Parks Division, upgrading a lot of those infrastructure things. And so I want to highlight a couple of those here. Go ahead, Chris. I also wanted to kind of highlight, the disbursement of where these projects took place. We've got parks located across the state of South Dakota, and when we were looking at the prioritization, we really looked at what are those high impact areas, those areas that we have, high visitation, and also balancing that with, what are those infrastructure needs that are in really poor condition. We try to prioritize those that were in poor condition, and also looking at those that have high impact. And so I think this map really displays that, hey, this really reached all areas across the state of South Dakota. I also wanted to kind of note some of these high dollar projects. I mean, really amazing that, prior to getting this money through the federal government, these projects of $500,000 or more were significant portions of our budget that we really had to take a hard look at how we were going to do them. And to be able to do almost a dozen of these larger projects within a short amount of time is really amazing and phenomenal. And so I kind of wanted to highlight a couple of those larger projects that we did. At Platte Creek, we had a failing lagoon system and several other components of that septic system that were in disrepair. And so this was one of the larger projects that we did, and this picture is indicative of some of that early on progress that we had, and that project is now complete. Also a lot of work on dump stations. Dump stations are one of those critical elements in most of our parks that we've got camping. And we've got a lot of aging infrastructure out there, and specifically at Lake Herman, we had not only aging and old infrastructure, but we also had some very tight and narrow windows for campers to get around, and so much so that I think we were seeing some campers not visit Lake Herman because of those challenges. And so being able to both update the old infrastructure and potentially also improving some flow and some additional width increases, it just really opened up the opportunities for more campers to be able to get into our parks. In addition to dump station work, we also had significant work done on several different water systems. At Newton Hills, we really struggled annually with the park staff there having to make multiple repairs on the water systems. And so we did a complete replacement of all of the water infrastructure at Newton Hills. It was a significant project there. And then, just get to highlight some completed projects here. You know, like I said, this money was used for both potable drinking water and sewer projects, and we did some significant work at Randall Creek, and this is just another illustration of a smaller portion of that overall larger project where we also will be able to get hydrants in. That's something that I know our park users really appreciate, some of those amenities in order to, you know, have a great family vacation. A picture of a final product here at Oahe Downstream. We had an old aging system, and we were able to actually relocate and have a better flow. We had challenges with our flow there at Oahe Downstream to be able to get people in and out, and we were able to pick a new location. And here's the final product, and that was in service last year, and really successful. A lot of good comments from the public on the ability to be able to move through there and updated infrastructure. I mentioned earlier, we, you know, with 93% completion, we just have a few minor things to clean up. We were able to see the progress of at Fort Sisseton while we were on our conference here this past week, and they've just got some touch-up things to do up there at Fort Sisseton, finalizing the final sewer, a couple of different projects up there, updating the lagoon system, upgrading lift station and sewer system piping, and so that project is nearing completion and expected to get completed this spring. At Farm Island, we've got a significant project there, and our contractor's just finishing up with the lagoons. The lagoons are the main piece that need to be finished yet, and most of those are shaped up, and we're just waiting to get the synthetic liner into one of the final lagoons, and that's expected to get wrapped up this spring. And then Hartford Beach, we were able to upgrade the dump station in that area, and unfortunately the contractor wasn't able to get their asphalt work done, and we're expecting to get that done here this spring. We got a couple of pictures of those. There's some progress here at Farm Island. So a little bit of work to done, but again, expected to get this finished up here this spring. And then, like I mentioned, Hartford Beach, expect this to be functional, and then all we need to do is finish it up with the asphalt this spring, and that will conclude that project. And so, that's, I believe, all I have here, and I'd stand by for any questions.
Any questions? See no questions, great presentation, good work, thank you. All right, and I think with that, we're gonna take a 10-minute break, and then we will come back and wrap up 23 and 24. We'll be at ease for 10 minutes.
The recording has stopped.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We've only got 2 items left on our agenda, and we're gonna jump right to it. 23, Tagged Fish Program with Director Van Meeteren.
Yes, thank you, Madam Commissioner and Commissioners and Secretary Rowland. Jeff Van Meeteren, Parks Director for Game Fish and Parks. We'll start off with item 23 here. Chris Hull's going to join me on this one. This is our Tagged Fish Program. You might be asking yourself, why is Jeff up here talking about tagged fish? Well, this is a program that we do with our fisheries team, Parks team and fisheries team together. It's a great way to not only promote fishing and encourage fishing in our parks, or fishing in general, but also fishing in our parks and the amenities that we offer in our parks. So that's kind of the impetus behind that. You know, parks, we see parks as a gateway to the outdoors for many of our users. There are people that don't know how to fish, maybe don't know how to hunt, but most anybody can utilize a park. And we feel like if we can get them in a park, we can maybe get them interested in something else. Fishing in particular really plays into that. Survey data, license data shows us that 70% of our park users have a fishing license or fish. So that's pretty incredible when you think about that. So this is the second full year we've done this program. We had a kind of a late start the year previous, but last year we did this for the entire season. We had over 220 tagged fish turned in the water bodies that we had this last year. This year we all got together ahead of time and felt like let's get this figured out. If we're going to do this program, let's do it right. So first thing you always start off with is goals. Have 4 simple goals with this program, not complicated, but just the idea behind the goals to kind of help guide and direct and keep the focus of the program on what we all agreed to and make sure our team is all on the same page. So when you look at these goals, number one is to inspire children and their parents to become future fishermen and learn the technique of fishing. Number two, draw families into state parks to participate and learn what outdoor opportunities and amenities we offer in our parks. Number three, optimize, and this is probably the one we really wanted to focus on this year, was to optimize the marketing potential of the program to get people excited about fishing in parks and recreation areas, and to share the joys of fishing with our followers through sharing of pictures, video, and testimonials. And then number four is just to forge a kind of an internal and relationship building and enhance our relationships between our fisheries and park staff. We work a lot with our fisheries staff. As a parks person up here talking, they would probably say the same thing. But there's always areas where we can improve those relationships, and that's part of this whole goal. So go to the next page here. These are the water bodies that, a little bit of a change this year from last year. I think Chris mentioned there's a couple that we don't have on this list, but we intentionally try to target park or water bodies near parks or in parks. So you see that list there. They're all either in a park or very close to a park. And there's a reason for that. The prizes which you have in front of you will all be handed out by a park staff person, so we want to have them fairly close to that. But these are all water bodies too that are generally smaller in nature, so you know we're not dumping fish in the Lake Oahe. Nobody ever catches a fish, you know. So that's kind of intentional on our part. Chris, would you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, thanks Jeff. Chris Hull, Game Fish and Parks Communication Specialist. We'd be remiss to say that this was Secretary Roebling's idea. One day we were sitting down and talking, and we started out at Farm Island, and we just got some fish in, and all of a sudden these tags started coming back. There's something about a tagged fish. There's something about a tagged goose, right, with the band, that really get people excited. And I think that first year, you know, talking with fishery staff and going back to what Director Van Meter said, is they're like, we don't want to do all this work and put a bunch of fish in an area that, or in a big lake, Roy Lake or something, where it's just a drop in the bucket. And we also want these fish to be accessible to just the common angler. We're not going to put them on, you know, a whole lot of walleyes and have people, you know, well, I can't catch them from shore, you know, so we want shore anglers' families. So we're talking bluegills, white bass, catfish, crappies. We did stock some walleyes last year, and that was intentional. But we also were very kind of intense on, we didn't want this to be a big workload for either our park staff or our fishery staff. So we were intentional in sitting down and going, how can we do this and when it's part of your regular work day? You know, we want you guys to work together from the park side and the fishery side, but we also want it to be part of the work day, and it should be fun. And I think some of our staff, our fishery staff for sure, have said it's a little bit out of the norm, but we like seeing it, and they love seeing those tagged fish returned. And we've got a lot of pictures to prove that the smiles on the faces just seem to be a little bit bigger, not even about the prize, but about the tag. A lot of times people are saying, you know, last year we gave out really cool t-shirts. They're like, this is the prize, right, the tag. So, but it also intentional on ease of how we can stock these fish. Last year we put them in the impoundment below, the sub-impoundment below the dam. Our fisheries guy said, it took us 2 hours to get a boat in there. Can we not do that one again? Yeah, absolutely, no problem, right? So it's, our programs, we want to start, when we want to start something new like this, we want it to be bigger and better right away. But I think this one, you're gonna see that it's gonna get bigger and better. And I've got some other things to say later, but you'll see these, and you also have to remember that a lot of our community and urban fisheries and these parks are designed to have high catch rates. When people show up, we want people to catch fish, and we want people to catch a lot of fish. Walk over here on any given day to Capitol Lake. There's a rare time when there's kids after school fishing where there's not a giant trout flopping on the end of the line. It's really amazing. So this plays into that too. You know, not every fish is going to be a tag fish, hopefully. Otherwise, we're going to have to order more lures, Director. But yeah, so I think you'll see these and they're very, not small, but controlled and they get a lot of use, so.
Thank you, Chris. All right, so, everybody always wants to know where's the tag, so this gives you an idea of what the tag looks like. That's a normal standard pen up there on the left-hand side. The tag on it says return to the park office for prize, and then on the other side it says South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. You can see, maybe hard to see that crappie there. The picture is, or the tag is kind of off the back of the dorsal fin. I think they get it working there.
Yeah, it won't shine on the screen, but it's off the back dorsal fin. You can see the white come off the back fin there on that crappie.
Yep. So very recognizable. You don't have to wonder if you caught a tagfish. It's obvious. So anyway, we put out an invitation too. We asked the fisheries guys, please reach out to the park staff. Let them help you with this project. So hopefully they don't feel like that whole burden of tagging fish is on their backs. But and then one of the things the fisheries guys asked is, hey, can we collect some data? So we put together a little survey that users will fill out prior to getting the prize. Survey 1, 2, 3, so just some really simple basic questions here. I can't read those right here, but one is, what town or city do you live in? Are you camping at a state park right now? You don't have to camp in a park to do this. You could just come out for the day. Just wondering if they use the park too. How many times do you normally fish in a year? What species of fish did you catch? Was the tag fish kept or released, and what color was the tag on the fish? You might be asking why that, because we've been doing this for a number of years. There are multiple colors out there. So if you catch a pink tag from a couple years ago, we're still gonna give you a prize. We're not gonna say, well, you didn't catch this year's prize. Yeah, and it's also designed that a lot of kids will catch these fish, so we don't wanna have a ton of questions, something easy that staff can help them with. They fill this out and they get the lure that you've all got in front of you there. So we'll talk about that real quick. We ordered 800 of these. We also took the opportunity to put our new parks merchandise logo on those, just to start to showcase that. So anyone that catches a tag fish will get one of these. They just stop at the local park office, parks that were on those lists of water bodies, and they can pick up their free prize. Yeah, just a fun way to do it. Again, I said at the beginning that one of the key parts of this program this year is we want to improve our marketing, really market this much more and get people excited about fishing. I'm going to ask Chris to talk about that.
Yeah, it's something like this is really lends itself to fun and good marketing. We did get an early jump on this year's program, as we got a call this week that the Cleghorn staff needed some room in their hatchery. So they tagged a bunch of trout and put them in Custer State Park, and immediately I started getting pictures and tag requests saying, I caught a tag fish. And I went, oh, okay, we're on it. So you can see the picture to the left is 4 trout that were caught at Center Lake. 3 of them were tagged from a family, and they were I think the dad had caught a tag fish last year at Center Lake. So we found that these trout, what I've really noticed at Capitol Lake again is these trout like to bite. And the size of these trout that you put in, if you've ever caught a trout, you will look at this thing and go, this is the biggest fish I've ever caught. They're impressive, but they're also eager to bite. So we got an early jump on that. So some of this is, we're gonna start doing weekly social media posts. They're not gonna begin in May, they're actually gonna begin probably Monday now. And really kind of changing the way we do stuff, more active promotion in the form of reels, short video clips. Of course, a lot of pictures of folks turning these fish in. a little bit more interactive. End of April, we have a program called Eye Contact. We literally have everybody who's hunted and fished in South Dakota for the last 20 years. We don't use all their names and emails, but, you know, folks who fished last year, maybe folks who we've identified haven't bought a license yet, and include these folks and say, hey, you know, if you're gonna be in these areas, you know, you got a chance to catch a tag fish. And going back to catching a tag fish is a big deal, even to me. I still love it, even though I fish all the time. Caught a tag bluegill 2 years ago on Clear Lake and at our family cabin, and my jaw dropped, and so it's a big deal. Gonna utilize our email system a little bit more and really target folks, and not only campers or anglers, but folks that we've identified that maybe, like I said, have lapsed, or maybe even urban areas, you know, that have these ponds in them, and say, hey, do you know, and try to really spur them to purchase a license or get out and go fishing. And then we're gonna do a little bit better job, especially with the survey. Our fisheries guys are really numbers guys, and they said if we're gonna do this again, we wanna pull some of this data out, and we wanna make it not really intrusive, so it's gonna be a simple thing, and I think that's really gonna help a lot. But then also going back to some of the marketing stuff, you know, Mother's Day, Father's Day, open house weekend. Nick and I and our communication staff are really good at like pulling on the heartstrings, especially those special days, and using some of the stuff and images and video to kind of spur folks to go, yeah, you're gonna be out camping, you're gonna be out in the outdoors. Here's another really cool opportunity, and if you do that, that's gonna elevate your day and your experience, I promise you. So, doing a lot more of the reels, a lot more of the video content is gonna be a big part of that. And then weekly parks newsletters, we have a weekly news email blast that goes out to, I think it's 70-some thousand campers, and it's everything that's going on in the parks, and, you know, lots of links, but this is gonna be a featured thing, maybe not every week, but probably every week. And then getting back into like the dog days of summer, where everybody's, you know, maybe the fishing isn't always exactly July, August, isn't exactly first and forefront in your mind, but saying, hey, these fish are still here and they're still accessible from shore. And keep pushing that idea of, you know, it's a family outing, but you still have a chance to do this, and this is gonna be a summer maker. So kind of looking forward to seeing how that comes out. I asked Nick if I could travel to every one of these parks and use one of our lures and try to catch one and film it and maybe spend a week or two out in the park. He said I couldn't take 2 weeks, but maybe 3 days. So we've been putting some miles on. But I think building off that success, you know, we put out, I think we gave out 240, I think I looked at, Jeff, tags last year. We want to double that. And it's not that we're putting out that many more fish. We just want more people kind of aware of it and out there and actively doing it. And I think at the end of the day, that's what Secretary Roebling really wanted was, hey, this is just another way in these certain parks and these certain urban areas to get out and get people to try to go. Just go, because if your kid catches a tag fish, you're probably going to have to go more often, and that's really the point. So.
Great way to promote not only fishing but our parks. So excited about this. Any questions?
Commissioner Bartley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris or Jeff, at these, say 10 locations, do you also post something so when they drive in, they say, hey, guess what? You can catch tag fish like at Snake Creek. They know where the pond's at and you see them fish.
Yeah, through the chair. We did that last year. I think we're gonna elevate that a little bit more to, you know, and the QR codes and all that stuff, so when they do catch a fish, they can get that survey done right away, and we're driving them to the parks office. But when the word got out last year, there were people in Pier driving out to target them, and our staff, I was worried about our park staff going, oh, this is gonna be overwhelming, especially when, well, Lydia is from Custer State Park isn't here, but last year she goes, well, I know we got the tag fish in Custer State Park because we had 63 people come in last weekend with a tag trout. And I said, okay, are you overwhelmed? And they said, no, we love talking to these people because they're so excited and they're so happy. But yes, that's certainly gonna be a component of that.
Commissioner Teal?
Are those tags the same as last year?
Through the chair, Commissioner Teal, no, they are a different color this year, so they are white this year. So.
But if you bring in one from last year, I'll give you an extra spinner, Commissioner.
Did you say how many tags do you do per year?
Oh, I'm not sure, I think last year it was somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000.
I was gonna say, I think it's around 1,600, but, and we have 800, lures. If we need to order more lures, that's a great problem, so.
And it really is, a lot of this is, through the chair, a lot of this is, you know, we're tagging trout that we're raising in the hatchery, but a lot of it is some extra work when our fisheries folks are out in these ponds doing their work anyway. It might be an electrofishing thing, it might be a trap and transfer thing, or it might just be what they have in their nets when they're doing their regular jobs. So it kind of varies, but we have a kind of a goal of 200 to 250 per water body. Some of them are smaller, so they're not gonna get as many, but I think that's the goal, is about 200 to 250.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Great project, fun, thank you. And with that, we are at our last item, 24 March and year-to-date camping unit and revenue reports, and Director Van Meter will stay with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Rowland, Jeff Van Meter, and Parks Director. We'll end with a positive note here. Again, we're having a great season so far for the most part in our parks with both camping and revenue. So we'll look at the March camping report. That should be item number 24 in your program there. Not a lot to report, you know, again, we're dealing with smaller numbers. These are actual campers that have camped in our park. We've had some very good weather, some mixed weather in some parts of the state. I would tell you that maybe there's two things to point out on here. One is we get some long-term campers that stay for a month in our parks, and the managers have the discretion this time of year to extend past our 14-day restriction. They take advantage of that. We obviously have lots of open campsites this time of year, so that can kind of skew some of the numbers. But then the other thing you'll see, like if you particularly look at like District 7 there, which is Big Sioux, Lake Vermilion, Palisades, and District 8, Newton Hills, areas around larger communities. This is the time of year I always find when somebody buys a new boat, somebody buys a new camper, that they just can't wait to get out. So we get some of those early season users. When you drive through the parks at this time of year, a lot of brand new campers still have the stickers on them. And so they're excited, and we're excited. We're happy to have those folks. So anyway, March was a good month. And then if you turn the page and look at the year-to-date numbers through March, you'll see we're 45% ahead of last year at this time. Again, low numbers, but it's a great trend. We're not gonna be sad about that. So I think kind of like with the fish program right now, our goal right now is to start creating that excitement and that momentum, and it really helps when the weather turns. Commissioner Cole was telling me that I think we're looking at some 80-degree days next week. Commissioner Whitmire, I don't know, hopefully you get up to 10 in your country. And you were saying you just got some snow yesterday again, so. Anyway, so let's get into the revenue. If you look at the March revenue report, again, great sales with our annual licenses, particularly the doubles. This is a trend we push. In fact, our staff this year put up a pop-up so that when you make a reservation, they try to cross-sell that with a double annual license purchase. And we really believe that's the results speak for itself there. We've seen some great increases in our double license sales, so happy about that. 26% up in annual license sales, that's awesome. Dailies, little more weather conducive. We're actually up with our regular daily sales. The first two lines there in our other parks, it's Custer State Park, and you can only imagine the fire, temporary road closures, and then some major road construction that are going on right there. If you'd factor that out, we'd be up in our daily license sales too. But Custer State Park generates a lot of license sales. That should change here. Hopefully we don't have any more fires. hopefully we don't have any more, road closures due to windstorms and that kind of stuff. And the construction is progressing pretty well, I was told here by the staff here the other day. So, overall, our license sales are up 17%. We're really thrilled about that. Camping services, these are advanced reservations versus actual stays. So you might be asking, well, I thought you just showed me you're up 45%. Well, that's actual campers. These are advanced reservations. A little caution here, when these numbers come in, dates can make a huge difference. If we miss a weekend that we reported last year, that can really skew the numbers. I mean, all total, we're not very far off of last year, even though it does, revenue-wise, it does show we're down 9%. But we know what's ahead. We've looked at our weekends here. We have several weekends where we've actually met or exceeded what we had last year for reservations, advanced reservations. We also have a few weekends that we know we can target, so we're gonna start doing that. We've also seen a trend here, it seems like in the last 4 or 5 years since post-COVID, is where people tend not to make reservations as far out. And I think that's just something we're gonna have to learn to deal with, so that does reflect sometimes in our reservation reports. One other quick thing to point out is our Spring Creek boat slips. No, we didn't do a major fee increase there. We're just collecting slip fees sooner this year, and that should level out over the months to come ahead of time. But overall, we're just barely down 1% for the month of March. But then when you look down below, year to date, we're actually up 1%. So happy about that. Again, we're going to target some of those weekends where we know we have camping capacity. That will be starting here real soon. We're going to try to use some of our programs that we put on in our parks to speak to those weekends and encourage people to take advantage of those and make the reservations. So lastly, I guess I would turn to the yes, that report right there. Thank you for bringing that up. License sales. Let's talk a little bit about this before we get into questions. We've got the years of 23, 24, 25, and 26 on here, and then a 3-year average. All the comparisons on the far right end are against the 3-year average. As you will see on there, this is over the last 3 years. We are not only ahead dollar-wise, but we're also ahead in permit sales on our annual licenses from any of the 3 previous years. We're up 18% over the 3-year average, which is excellent. Our daily sales, we're down just a little bit compared to 25, but compared to the 3-year average, we're up almost 16%. So very happy about that. Last year we had some outstanding daily license sales. I think with some better conditions in Custer State Park, we would have exceeded that for this year. All total, we have sold more daily and annual license sales this year than any of the previous 3 years, which we're very excited about. Looking down below in the camping units, again, these are actual units that have been on site compared to the 3-year average. We're up 61%. But again, it's very early in the season, so small numbers here. And then something you're all familiar with, we're really tracking our lodging nights. Again, good news, we're up 19.5%. One lodge unit, two lodge units I want to call out is the Pickerel Lake one. Part of our managers conference this week was touring that site, and that was a totally staff-built lodge. Absolutely beautiful. We built it out 4 extra feet compared to the first one we built at Newton Hills. I think that made a huge difference. People love the location. It's right on the lake, right on the lake. You could cast your line from the deck. Just a great spot. Just really meets. I asked the manager there, what are you getting back for feedback? Well, they have a little guest registry type book that people can leave comments, and he says people love what the this is. We hardly get any comments. I think he said the only comment we got was, could you provide some, corn on the cob holders for the corn, you know, and, yeah, we can do that. That's pretty simple. So, anyway, yeah, it was fun. And then the other one, down there at Spring Creek, you're probably wondering, wow, that's, you've doubled the numbers there. We do have our, restaurant operator using a couple of those, units. He's paying us for that. And then we also, housed a lot of our department staff that went to the law enforcement academy. So we do count those units in there as well. We know that these lodge units are an area we can continue to grow. We've had excellent growth the last 3 years, but there's still more capacity here, and we will continue to push that. The newer generations like all the creature comforts of home, and that's what we have in these lodges. So there's also some conveniences too, like having the indoor bathrooms and that kind of stuff. So I guess with that, I would open it up to any questions.
Any questions from the commission and or comments?
Chairman?
Commissioner Kirkeby.
Secretary or Director, when you said staff build, you mean the guys take the hammers and build it, or you design it yourself and somebody else builds it?
Through the chair, Commissioner Kirkeby, we actually built this from the ground up. We have an extremely talented building maintenance specialist up in that area. We poured the concrete, the foundation, finished everything. The only things we don't do are the electricity. We need to have that meet code. So in this case, we brought an electrician. We do have parks that do have electricians, and we will do that. We will perform that work there, and then a plumber as well. We do a lot of the rough ends, but they do some of the final connections and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, this was completely done. We have staff there right now building I want to say close to a 1,600 square foot office building in Watertown right now. Same way, poured the foundation, putting up all the walls, all the siding, all staff led. Not only does this gentleman take the lead, he designed that building, but he's also teaching all these young staff that are helping him with this, and they love working with him. So they're learning this trade, and we can just keep using those talents as things go on. So, and we save a lot of money too.
Yeah.
Very good. Additional questions and or comments? Seeing none, well, that does take us to the end of our agenda. Solicitation of items. Do we have any commissioners that would like to bring up a particular topic that they would like to see addressed during a future commissioner meeting? Now's the time for you to make that suggestion. And if it comes to mind later, you know who to reach out to. And with that, before we adjourn, I just want to thank the commission and the Team GFMP for their work. We had a lot of topics to tackle over the last 2 half days, and so I appreciate your work, your dedication, and the discussion on those items. Secretary, before we adjourn?
Yeah, well, thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll echo those thanks to staff and the commission. We navigated a lot of topics like you mentioned, and I thought those discussions were very fruitful. Obviously, we have our next meeting in Custer State Park in May, so we'll be able to go tour beautiful Custer State Park. We do have a governance meeting that'll be right before the Thursday meeting, commission meeting itself, so we'll have some time to talk about Robert's Rule of Order and other governance-related topics within the commission process, so please put that on your calendars. But May is always a fun meeting. We'll have a commissioners reunion. Just for the new commissioners, this is a time where we can, first travel meeting of the year. This will start our travel circuit for the summer, so this will be our last meeting in Pierre here for a while. But looking forward to that May commission meeting. If there's any topics along the way you wish for us to cover during that meeting, please let us know. And like always, we're always available for phone calls and questions along the way. But yeah, it's turkey season opens tomorrow, and not in the Black Hills though. In the Black Hills it opens April 25th, but everywhere else on the prairie it opens tomorrow, so I know there's a lot of folks excited about that. I have an 8-year-old, that's all he thinks about right now is shooting the turkey, so I'm excited to take him out tomorrow morning. But it's spring, the fish are starting to bite, snow geese, and that migration has rolled through, and it was a good season, but a quick season. They weren't around very long, but that was also fun for folks to get out and enjoy that opportunity. But yeah, this is a kickoff to spring, and here we are already, April 11th, starting tomorrow, and we'll go from there. So thank you, Commission, for a great meeting. Thank you, staff, once again. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and with that, we need a motion. Andy, second to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Cole, seconded by Commissioner Bartley, and all those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned.